In the moment I'll be on that day. Meditating, for life is changing. I need to know what that's in the light, feel like it. Feel it, benefits. They come standing every now and then. In the morning I wake up, I could go. Cause I tell the music going on. If we get sick, and watch right now. Hearts are great and help our trouble. They'll be away. And it's a struggle every day. We're stressing. Without dedication. Trying to pick up that those intention. Smoking music. Relaxation. Feeling good. Feeling off of life.
For the record, I want to say that I started this link journey at 11:52. I was trying to be on time.
It seems that every time that we try to do this, we both run into the same issue.
Well, we have improved.
Yeah, we're getting better. We'll get it one day.
Well, good Saturday to you, sir.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm amazing. Like, I almost don't want to say it, but yeah, I'm doing really good.
Well, tell me about it.
How are you?
Amazing? Tell me about it. What's so amazing?
Oh, what's so amazing? So I think it was November, I started my surrender experiment, right? And it's a practice, you gotta like do it a step at a time. So as I'm really like leaning back into the trust of the divine, um, it's okay, it's a little weird. I can see myself running the program that the divine has for me.
Mm.
Like I can see my hands moving and I'm like, oh, look, my hands are moving and I'm not really doing it. Or am I? I'm in agreement, right? And yesterday I was listening to my Pandora, you know, I listen to it all the time when I do my massages, chakra balance station or whatever. And there was, normally it's instrumental, but this time it was like Om Shakti or something. I don't know. Maybe it was Deva Premal. And there were lyrics, but they were in, I don't know, Hindu or Hindi or whoever. And I was listening to the music and my mouth was mouthing the words.
In Sanskrit.
Yes, and I hadn't heard the song before. So riddle me that, Batman. Well, what is that? That is awe,
yeah.
right? That's a message. That's for me anyway. That's the feeling I feel like I'm in right now.
Hmm.
Does that explain it?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it definitely does. And I kind of already have my own understanding of it because I've found myself in the same type of place, not the same exact experience, but definitely kind of the, what do they call it, the observer state where you kind of see yourself walking in your own flow of things. And I've I've been, I don't know, is that what you call it, like surrendering to it? Um,
That's what I call it because I read a book by Michael A. Singer and it was called The Surrender Experiment. And he does it through like yogi meditation, but I'm not a yogi. I'm kind of resistant to yoga, which is funny, given the whole surrender thing. But I can only imagine if I did yoga, like where I would be right now. But yes, I refer to it as surrender. Only because one of my core beliefs growing up was I can't trust anyone. Including
how did you develop that?
okay, so it's an interesting story. I think I was like 6 years old maybe, and my dad and his wife, his new wife, and my sister and I were at this place called Catskill Game Farm up in upstate New York. It's like a petting zoo, but it's, the animals are free to roam. You just kind of go and, you know, there's no fences except for the property. And they had these little, you know, like vending machines for candy, but instead of candy, it was like goat grain. So they would give you a little ice cream cone and you put it under there and you get your little coin and you turn the thing and just the right amount of grain comes out into the little cup. And so as soon as, you know, that grain hits, the goats know it's feeding time. So they just rush to that area because they know that's where the food comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt attacked.
Mm.
I mean, I was little. I was like, I didn't have any idea what was going on. I don't think I've ever seen a goat before. And they have evil eyes if you ever look at them.
Mm.
And
They do. They do.
they do, little evil bugger eyes. They have no soul. But so multiple of these strange animals with no souls coming at me, you know, and I just went like this, like I didn't know what to do, right? And I tried to get to high ground, which is funny because that's what goats do.
Mm-hmm.
I climbed a farm stand and got to the top of it. And, you know, I'm holding this, I look like the Statue of Liberty holding this freaking cone thing, but that's what they wanted. And here I am holding it from them. I should have just thrown it down. They would have left me alone, but I didn't know that. I was a kid. So this whole time this was going on, my father is just belly laughing
Mm.
in the little street there. Like, oh, you're so cute. Oh, this is so funny.
Was it funny at
Entertainment
all?
for one. Yeah, and I'm terrified.
Mm.
I am in terror. And I made that mean I can't trust anyone to protect me. I
Mm.
have to protect myself.
You know, the thing for me, in terms of, if we're going to use the term surrender, for me, the process lately has been one of hearing myself tell myself that it's okay for me to trust myself. I can truly trust uh, the spirit within me to guide me. I can trust my intuition. I can trust myself to not lead me astray. There's a lot of forces out there that are, they got that part covered, but I can trust myself to navigate through just whatever, because um you know, my hashtag for my whole, I don't know, beingness here is reincarnated to resist. Resist what? This regime of misleading forces in the world. And so if I reincarnate, it means I've already been here before. And if I'm here specifically just to resist that, then I apparently knew what I was doing, and I still do, and I can trust myself, and it's okay. And I've just really been leaning into that. And with that, the all of the confusing chatter that goes on, like in the psychic realm, we'll call it that, instead of just saying it's a bunch of mental chatter. A lot of that has uh, dissipated, and with that, I find that I can hear my voice more clearly, or the voice of God. And with that, I'm. It's funny 'cause my eyes just look down here at this book here.
Oh, Tio.
Yeah, well, the part of it says the anatomy of loneliness, and the part that my eyes just went to says how to find your way back to connection. And that's really, it's really what I've been journeying down the last 2 months, finding my way back to connection, connecting back with myself. So you're,
So I have a question for you.
what's
May I
that?
ask?
Sure.
If we didn't have the same birthday, would you feel as connected to me as you do?
Yes. You know, we were already connected. I think we were in the middle of a call with the Wandering Footprint people, and then it just, what's everybody's birthday? And then you say that, and I was like, no, that you read my birthday wrong. You know, we found that out after the fact. But how wild is that, you know? And again, it goes back to seeing that, like, I can trust myself. And last night I was rearranging stuff. I told you I had to reconstruct my computer, move the desk back into the other room here. So I had to take it all apart and put it back together. But while I was doing that, I kept running across pieces of artwork from this this artist that I'm purchasing another painting of theirs. Her name's Gabriella, and I went from that, and I saw her card, and I saw some other stuff that came from some other people I've met along the way. Um, and I realized, I said to myself, not only can I trust myself, I have a bunch of literal sisters out there. I have a family. I don't, my physical world here of biological family members, that's non-existent. We've had that talk before, but I really do. And Gabriella, the painter, you, just so many others, and I find myself surrounded by a literal family of the soul. And so, of course, you know, we went to the synchronization event and find out later on, because we decided to stay in touch because we happened to be there at the end talking to one another, along with the guy that was on the stage at the end talking. It's just like, hey, yeah, here's your card, here's my card, you know. Oh, of course we find out later. Oh yeah, by the way. And it's
Yeah.
just I find that when I back up and I allow for myself to just kind of rest and surrender in that knowingness, that the beauty of life, the magical synchronistic type stuff. And it shifted for me. It used to be like, wow, what is this? I gotta study the mystery. Now it's more of like, oh yeah, this is the real life. This is how life really functions. This is why the sun rises and the rain falls and the trees grow and everything works in balance and there's a beauty to it. And when I stay in the place where I can see that, um, it's it's been really weird lately in a good way because I've recently been talking a lot with this one particular person, and the part of the conversation that comes back up is the how precious life is because of how short life is. And it's really kind of tragic if you go all the way through that and think, wow, like what are we doing with our lives? And there's so much beauty here, but it is temporary. It ends in the physical, and that should make us appreciate it all the more. But I find myself excited for the future and the projects and things that I'm headed towards. But at the same time, I find myself perfectly at peace where I'm at, and I kind of want time to slow down because as I'm getting older, time's speeding up. But over the last few weeks, I've noticed, in fact, this is going to be the title of another episode that I have planned with a different sister. Going to be titled swiftly, yet without haste, because I find myself moving swiftly through my days. And in moving swiftly but without haste, I'm not rushing through it and I'm appreciating it more. And to my perception, time is slowed way down. And less time is actually passing for me. I'm accomplishing more. And I'm so grateful for that because the awareness is allowing me to say, I want to experience and live in the now. And I don't want to reach the end or my destination. I want to enjoy the journey. And I'm finding myself, hey, I'm excited. I want these things to happen. I have plans and the timeline of events. And I want it now, but I'm happy right where I'm at. And I'm glad that time, my perception of time has slowed down, even though I'm actually moving through time swifter.
But you can choose your pace. That's the beauty of it, you know.
And
I
see, I didn't realize that until now I'm experiencing it. The more that I lean in and surrender, the more I'm experiencing that. And I didn't think I was going to have all this plugged in and ready to go in time, but I did. And it's just another example. And the whole time I'm getting frustrated. The wires are catching on stuff. I'm like, no, 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 no. But internally, it's just like I'm right on schedule with my schedule because again, I know what I can trust myself to know what I'm doing. I don't have to. Hmm, I'm gonna pause and hold this thought in my head, and then I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna give you the microphone for a second while I digest what just came through. I'll get to it.
right now.
Do you want me to go ahead right now?
I feel like there's something really meaty here. I'm leaning in. I'm so
Um,
curious.
well, again, I'm trying to formulate the thought so I can articulate it a little clearer.
Okay, so let me say something that came up while you were talking. I attended my first funeral as I want to say an awakened, a conscious human, right? Like I've been to funerals before that I was in shock. I wasn't present, and for this funeral, there were my clients, a husband and wife, and the husband had been diagnosed with cancer and an issue like a year and a half ago. And, I massaged them both, and I would go to their home after he became too ill to come to my office. And they had such a beautiful home out in the country, and they live in Poetry, Texas.
Mm.
I want to go live in Poetry. Okay. And it's like a nature preserve. They have 10 acres. Every time I go there, there's another wild animal that's like, hi. Deer, ducks, raccoon, whatever. And such a pleasure, you know. And each time I would go, I could see his decline. And she was always with a smile on her face, joy and peace. And that inspires me, you know. But I got to see the end of their love story. And it was a long goodbye for them. And I feel so honored to have witnessed it. And then to have attended his funeral, where it was packed. This church was packed. His name was David, which means beloved of God, God's beloved. And let me tell you, he was. He was. And every person that went up there had, you know, some of them were funny and some of them were just break your heart tender. And you don't know this about me, but I've been planning my own funeral because I'm a control freak, right? I want to have control over how I'm remembered. While I was sitting in the back row, because I was there a little bit late, I realized, Gina, your funeral is none of your business.
Mm.
If you want a beautiful funeral, you need to live your connections as deeply as this man, David, and let them make that a beautiful service. Wow. Your life is what makes your legacy. Your connections are what make your legacy. You know, and I only knew the wife. That's the only person that I knew there. And so after the service, you know, we all collect ourselves. And you know what's interesting to me, I want to bring this up because I rarely have seen this in my life. There were multiple men in this service that had to step out of the service to collect their emotions because they loved this man so much. And the brotherly love, like to witness that, the depth of love that men can access with each other. I needed to see that. I need to believe, you're helping me, and my son is helping me. I need to believe that there are just amazing men in this world, you know, and I'm learning it. And I hope I haven't gotten you off track of your thought.
Wow. Not at all, actually. It leads right into it. And I guess again, I can trust myself because I felt the pause and I went with it. And the reason for the pause was, I guess, to hear that, specifically the end part of that, because part of my plans moving forward is to acknowledge the fact that I keep hearing the same thing that you just said from these sisters around. And what they're all saying, what you're all saying is, where are these men as we remember them that they're supposed to be? Where are they? We need them. We need to know that we can not just alone here. And so part of my next phase is to again just really tap in with myself and come to the realization of what I came to the realization of last night, and move forward and gather my brothers around me and realize that on a soul level, and this is just me being really honest with myself about who I am, on a soul level, yes, I also have a bunch of brothers too, and there are a bunch of younger brothers. And as such, to purge from my mental field this thing that is pushed into the minds of has been pushed into my mind. I think it's pushed into the minds of many people, like pretty much everybody. But for me, I'm 33 years old. And last night, as I'm rearranging everything here, telling myself I can trust myself, realizing I have these brothers too, and they need a little bit of guidance, and uh, it's my responsibility to respond to that request that I hear life bringing to me, that I hear spoken by my sisters that they're requesting, and it's like, okay, so I'm gonna gather these men together, and we're gonna stop being so disconnected, and we're gonna rebuild that aspect of the tribe. And I've got a few men in mind to begin forming my inner circle, if you will, so that I can fully have it be a fully formed idea before men stay busy, so I don't want to waste anybody's time. So I want to have everything planned out and ready to go before I really get started. But to do that, I have to find the key men in my circle that will help me build that vision into a thing where we all interact and we check in on each other, and we don't just let everybody wander around and spiral out into loneliness. So it's going to be a personal thing between each of us and checking in, talking directly with one another regularly, and then once a month or so come together in a Zoom call like this, and have a meeting by the fire, so to speak. And all of that leads into what you were saying there, because of this revelation that I was having about the fact that I'm 33 years old now. And last night, I went to this restaurant that I shared with you, and there was live music. And I'm an instrumentalist. I can play the guitar very well. I have most of my life because my father taught me how to play, but my father didn't play the guitar. My father played the pedal steel guitar, which is an odd instrument because not everybody can play it, and most people can't play it very well, and it's a terribly complicated contraption. But that's what he played, and that's why he was such a good teacher. And he didn't teach me how to play the guitar. He taught me how to teach myself how to play the guitar because he understood the musical aspects of it, and he just set me loose with it. My father died in 2018. So there's this guy playing pedal steel guitar last night, and I keep videotaping him. It's just this band, it's these two women, and they got guitars and they're singing, and this pedal steel guitar player, and he's got this beard, and I keep looking at him through the thing, and he's playing along with the music on the speakers that are just it's playing in the restaurant as he's setting up, and he's playing along with it. And I realized as a musician, I was like, oh, he's a real musician because he can hear it the way I can hear it, and he's playing, and that reminds me of my dad. I keep looking, and I realize this guy looks eerily identical to a younger version of my father, probably when he was in his 30s or 33 or somewhere in there. Um, and before I left, I walked up and I asked them, how do I buy your music? And they were like, what? We haven't even played any original music. And I said, that doesn't matter. I'm here for the vibe. And plus, you are an amazing pedal steel guitarist. And that's an interesting instrument to have here. And you look like my father. And he's like, wow. And I was like, yeah. And so I got their card. They gave me a card, and they're local. So I'm going to interact with them. And I'm probably going to write some more guitar music and stuff and go play live there, and just network and all of that. Because that's all a part of the plan too, as far as I'm going on tour with my other music. And I realize I can do all of this stuff. Why? Because I'm not a boy. Because I walk through my life and I say I'm 33, but I feel like I'm probably like 13 still. I'm still a child and everybody else is an adult, but I've not been a child for a very long time. In fact, I have a new guy that's working with me. His name's Tyler. He's 23. And he's so very young and dumb, and he doesn't know it, and he needs some direction and he doesn't have any. But he has me that he works with. And again, I see life's like, okay, here you go. Are you going to accept the responsibility? And by that, it means, are you going to maintain the ability to respond
Hmm.
to what you see as needed? Because that's what men do. And I look back at my father here and I realize I'm 33 now. That's 7 years away from being, just 7 years from being 40. And 7 years ago is when all of this really kind of got started for me, like everything getting really real, because 7 years ago I was 25, 26, right before everything came in and they arrested me and all of this and that. And I got ripped from my home and 7 felonies against me, which all disappeared. Why? Because I wrote the DA a letter and said, you don't have a case, let's go. Leave me alone or let me go. And they let me go. Why? Because I'm a man. And I said no, and they let me go because they were playing childish games. And I knew that. And back then, 7 years ago, I was not a child, even though my mind keeps trying to trick me into thinking I am. Because society is kind of built that way, to make you feel inferior. So if that was only 7 years ago, then I've got only 7 years until I'm 40, and Jesus died at 33. Like he was done with his whole life. And was he a man? Yeah, okay, then you're 33 now, 7 more years, and you'll be 40, and that maybe you're a man by 40. I don't know, but my father came into my life as a stepfather. I've told you the story. He was 50 years old when I was born. Well, 40 is only 10 years away from 50. So, and then my mind paused and I looked at this picture of me on top of a horse that I've got. And I'm a little baby on the horse, and he's there and he's just got this smile on his face. And I realized he was 50 in this picture. That's not that far away from where I'm at. And I realized that by the time my father was 18, the world was completely different. And he had already been through so many things to where by the time he was 18, he had already been forced by life, because he had a very hard childhood. He was forced by life to accept the fact that he was a man. And as a result of that, he walked through life and everyone he interacted with knew that they were in the presence of a man. He was this guy that didn't say very much unless he had something to say. And as a result, when he spoke, everyone listened. And they didn't just listen, they heard. Why? Because he carried that with him. That's who he was. And he existed in a world where he had to be that, because he was surrounded by men, and it was a dangerous world. And some men were dangerous and some men were good and this and that. But at 18, he went into the military. He was legally allowed to go to war until he did. He wasn't this child that I've been thinking that I am in my head. And I haven't been this child either. And I'm getting close to that age. And I look and I say, well, shit. He's definitely the manliest man I ever ran across. I feel lucky to have had him in my life, but I look around the world now and I say, am I going to respond? Because I definitely have the ability. And just like what you were saying that you witnessed at this funeral, you watch these men have to pull away and collect themselves because of that appreciation and love that they had for this man. And it's just, I don't know, it's really, again, wild that my mind always breaks stuff down to such minute, intricate details of like, oh, let me pause here. You say something. You don't know what to say, but I need to wait before I tell you about how I had the realization last night of like, hey, I not only can trust myself, I've already got a track record of my history. I can look back and show myself how I navigated through all of these situations that I didn't have anybody there guiding me. I had me there guiding, and I walked through it. Why? Probably so that I could have a conversation like this with you and continue to go over in my mind my plan of attack as it relates to the bringing the brotherhood back to the circle. Because unless somebody says, "Hey, gather around," they're not going to, and nobody's going to say that except for somebody like me.
Hmm. Yeah.
And in
I think
realizing
you're
that,
are you like me in the fact that you're a resistant leader?
I'm sorry.
Are you resistant to being a
Yes,
leader?
yes,
Yeah.
but I find that I'm resistant because I've been I've been conditioned in the mental realm to feel like I'm inadequate or not qualified or this or that. And also I used to struggle a lot with I don't want to be uh, arrogant or prideful or egotistical. And now I'm realizing I can trust myself to keep myself from being that way.
Yeah.
And in that realization, I realized I'm only resistant to stepping into the role because I'm afraid that I'll fail. But if nobody does it, if not now, when? If not me, then who? And if not, then why?
Yeah. Well, I feel all those things, and I was a leader. I was a manager for 50 people for about 3 years, and it nearly killed me. This was 2007. No, yeah, 2007, like for about 3 years. And oh, people like I want to be able to lead the right people,
Mm,
people who are teachable.
yeah,
You know, I had to lead people who had insecurities, egos, like the gamut, and they probably had both at the same time, like this huge ego, and then there's like low self-esteem, and it it was like a daycare. It felt like a daycare, and I would be willing to lead people who are, have done the work. I don't want to do the work for you. Like you were saying, um, your father taught you how to teach yourself,
yeah,
right? And I think that that is immensely more valuable when you know how to think and how to learn and how to be curious. And that's the way that the information becomes part of your cellular makeup, and you know it. I don't have to convince you of anything because you know it, you feel it. It's like truth.
yeah,
You can't be convinced of the truth. Like I feel it or I don't feel it.
exactly. And again, on that note, going back to my father and him teaching me how to teach myself, as a result of that, I not only can pick up a guitar and play it like I was riding a bike, I can pick up any instrument and listen and toy around with it until I learn how to play what I'm wanting to play on it. Now I could go however far in depth I want to, but I don't need some curriculum to teach me this or that. All I need is what he taught me way back then. And since he taught me that way, I not only know how to teach myself, if I can teach myself, I can teach others to teach themselves too. And,
Mm.
again, I really think a lot of the problems in this world that we see that are just out of balance and just wrong and need to be fixed, I think they get fixed when men step into the picture and add some order to the chaos of it. Uh, but we live in a world now that I realized what I didn't realize as a child growing up was how rare um, that man that was my father was, how few and far between they really are. And another big thing is he's my stepfather. I wasn't going to have a father. He stepped in because he said, no, you're going to have one. And he protected me from the rest of my biological family that, like, oh, you're not white enough. We're gonna, and he's like, he stepped in and said, nope, I'm gonna make you all raise this child and give him a great childhood. And I'm not gonna allow for you to do this evil stuff. He resisted that. And as a result, it wasn't until he passed that kind of the mask came off for the rest of my family members, and I saw the true colors there. And something that I had that a lot of men that I know didn't have and still don't have. I had a father, and so many people don't. Um, so how
You
do
know,
we?
I love the word you said stepped up. And I wonder if that's where step parent comes from.
Mm,
The person who stepped up.
mm, probably.
Oh, I love that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's really a beautiful story when I look back at it, and it caused me to, you know, it sucks that he passed on for that. He's not here, that I can't have these conversations with him. But at the same time, I'm, we talked before about how when my father passed, I felt like the world was no longer safe anymore. And I think somewhere in the conversation I was having with myself last night, I've come to the place where I realize I'm still safe and I can continue to make the world a safer place for others because he's no longer here with me, but he is here with me in a way that he's more so here with
He's
me
in
now.
your program. He
Yeah.
influenced your program, your script. And, one thing you said was that you can look back and you can see where you made the right choices along the way, even not trusting yourself, but now you can look back and you can see that. But at the same time that you can see that, can you also see that you brought someone
Yeah.
into your life,
Yeah.
And you were in his life too. So, he
Yeah.
brought you, and I see that as I look back, I see multiple people who were in my life for maybe a year or two or 6 months or so, or even just one moment. And in a grocery store that I still think about,
Yeah.
and that made an impact on me. And
You're saying our connections.
yeah, and I take responsibility for pulling them to me, and I also, believe that there's the reciprocal,
Yeah.
their gift to me fed a need for themselves,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you can see it, but
I,
there's the teal
which one is
frequency.
that?
This one is
Uh,
interdependent.
hold on, the connection.
Interdependent. I put it horizontally, but it's vertical. Is it thanks. Yeah.
The connection
But
breaking up.
interdependence.
The connection's breaking up, and I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. So interdependence is the name
Okay.
of this frequency painting.
Okay.
And I love that it has all the colors of the whatever colors of people, right? What red, white, yellow, black.
Red and
And
yellow, black and white, they're all precious in his sight.
dang it, brother.
The what you just said about him coming into my life, just to add more weight to that. I was born December of, of course, it, but it was 1989. So at the end of October, like October the 30th or something of 1989, that's when my father married into the family right before I was born. And then 13 months later, my biological mother passed away, and so he literally was there like there's a month there where he's like, all right, I'm here, before I showed up. So, we made this plan that at the start of my first novel there's a poem. It's called The Beginning. But the poem says, the end was set, and we all were there before, when all that is was yet, and so we watched as nothing stopped the beginning, where we all met. I'm speaking to like pre-incarnate plannings and like of this incarnation. At some level, me and him met up before we were even people and said, I'm gonna need you here at this point. And he's like, I'm gonna need you here because my father lived a hard life. And right before he married into the family, he married in because his wife previously died in a car crash. And shortly after that, his son and daughter, he had a daughter named Melanie, who was away at college, and he just absolutely adored her. And I never met her. This is how quickly this came. She died of a brain aneurysm. Just one day she's here, the next day she's not. And so when I'm about 6 years old or so, his son Billy actually killed himself in the house, in the room that was next to the room that I was staying in. So he lost his wife and both of his children, but he had me as a son. So you're talking about reciprocal. And so it's kind of like before this time period, it's like, I'm gonna need you to show up here. And he's like, well, I'm gonna need you too. You know, and that's on a soul level, that's really what we're all doing here. Facebook has the thing, what's your religion? And I type in there every time I say, we're all just walking each other home. That's my religion. That's what it would say.
Can you say that again?
We're all just walking each other home. At the end of it all, the purpose of all of this is we're walking each other home hand in hand.
So I interpret that as, I'm going to keep you safe
Yeah.
because you're going to keep me safe.
And you remember what I was saying last night about you, Gina L, and then this other friend, Gina L, and the other Gina lives in Florida. And we met in Florida, and my father was born in frostproof Florida.
I feel like we should go back to Florida.
Yeah, we should all.
Florida's calling us. I wish I could get there on the April 20th thing, but I'm hoping she does another one and I can make it to that one.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm planning a tour in the fall with my music. I'm not sure how much I've shared with you about the development of that idea. I've shared it with a lot of people. Okay, well, let me tell you. This summer, I do heating and air, so as a day job. But this year, instead of and I live in Georgia, so it's hot in the summers, and there's a lot of work and potential to make a lot of money that I don't have to spend. But every year it's the same. I've done this for 13 years. 13 is a number that keeps popping up, but it's literally, I'm in my 13th year of heating and air. And for 13 years, I have gone through summers making more money than ever before, each year making more and more. And then winter comes and the work dries up and people here, it doesn't get that cold. A lot of people will go without heat, which means I'd wind up without work and struggling and suffering to get through. And it's dark night of the soul every year, same time, same channel, this and that. And so this year, we got the new album that I'm working on, and it will be released in October. On January the 1st, New Year's Eve, right at like midnight. This buddy of mine, his name's Justin. His name's Justin Case.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, so like his middle name is Case. His first name is Justin. So Justin Case called
I love
me.
his parents.
Justin Case called me and said, hey, he lives in Ohio, and he says, hey, I'm working with these people with this festival. If I get you some time on a stage here later on this year, are you going to show up? And I said, yes. This was how my year started, literally. I started a live stream on my Discord channel. Nobody showed up. I was gonna do some live music and so I did my music stuff in my live stream, but nobody showed up, and I was like, whatever. And then I get off, and Justin calls me, and he says all of that, and I get re-encouraged. So I've been talking with him, and September the 28th through October the 2nd, I think, is the festival that he has in mind, because what he does is he's networking, like he's working on a soul level, and he's very much aware of that's his gift, is to network with these people and connect this and that. So he's working for all these festivals, and so he's kind of got the backdoor key there to kind of say, I can get you some time on this stage. And so that birthed the idea of this summer, which I just got a raise. I got a $250 a week raise. Um,
Hmm.
so not just like I got a few extra dollars, but I don't get paid hourly. But now I'm getting paid a salary, and it's consistently more money than I was planning when I made all the plans to save a certain amount of money per day from April until September, which gives me $10,000 to go on tour with. So now I've got more access to more resources, probably because I'm leaning in and surrendering more to this path of mine. And I know a bunch of people in a bunch of different states all across the country. So September, I'm going to go and do that. And I'm going to start there. And between now and then, I'm going to network with as many people as I know. And I don't know who everybody, I know you, but I don't know all of the people that you know. And I don't know the people that you know and who they know. But I know a lot of people that know a lot of people that probably have connections to some stage somewhere all across the country, from Ohio to Florida, because I've already talked with Gina down there about that. And I have uh two male friends, brothers, if you will. The one who I went and saw when we went to the event down there in Miami, because he was like 30 minutes away. So that was nice. But the other one is somewhere else. Gina's in Gainesville, and my second buddy that I'm talking about that lives somewhere else in Florida. I can't remember exactly where he said, but his name is Jason, and he was the first man that I've contacted so far. He's the only person that I've talked with about, other than you and a few other sisters, about my plan with this men's group. But he strikes me as some someone that's competent and able to help me formulate and plan this idea of this men's circle.
Mm.
And I got to go to Florida and take my tour there. So Ohio and Florida. I was just talking last night with a friend out in Oregon, and I have she's not my literal blood sister, but she's definitely, like, I consider her literally my big sister. And that's what I have her saved in my phone as. And she lives in Oregon too. And she lived a hard life, but recently got married and had a kid. So I gotta go see my, what is it called, nephew?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I don't have a family, so I don't know what to call it. But so I gotta go there too. And then I have some people in New York, and you're in Texas, just all around. So
I
this
got
summer,
to know what this funeral is. I've been waiting. I'm not the funeral. I've been waiting to hear what the name of the festival is so I can write it down and like block my time out so I can attend this festival.
I will I'll have to talk more with Justin, and
Okay.
I'll get you the information. I don't know the name of it specifically. I just know that he said these are the specific dates. Talking with
Okay.
another person that he knows, that we know, and they're involved in the festival scene too. And I met these local musicians here, and I'm seeing all of the pieces fit together. So I'm gonna make more money this summer than I was planning when I planned all this out, and be able to stash more away to fund my trip around the country, not only visiting and connecting in real life with people, and probably having some very synchronized um, encounters with them. But also, I get to share my music, and I get to do what I initially planned on doing when I started writing all of these raps, which was I was having trouble with the internet and AI and social media was freaking me out, and I had to go talk to the trees about it. And the trees were like, "Just put your phone down. Just turn it off. Just chill out. It's cool. We're not worried about it." And I was like, "What? No, it's crazy." And they're like, "Well, just disconnect." And so I did, and I disconnected, and I stopped writing these big long posts, and I started writing raps. And I said, I'm never gonna put any of this stuff online. The only way anybody will hear it is live and in person, and they're gonna have to buy a physical CD from me if they want to have a copy. Now that didn't happen because it didn't have to be that extreme, but the original intent was to perform the stuff live, not to just be a recording artist, but to do the whole thing. Because my music, and I was listening to this last night, listening back to it after listening to a bunch of other artists that I appreciate. Um, I listened to some of the stuff that I've got coming out on the new album, which October is the release date, right at the start of October. So I'm gonna go on tour with my new album and have a bunch of physical CDs and say, "Hey, here's Shadow Band, this and that." You probably have to get it from me here in person because you might not be able to find it on the internet because it might get shadow banned for real. And I'm listening to it and I'm realizing how powerful the message of not only the whole tape as a whole and just the storyline that I can see that I've put together, because apparently some part of me really knows what it's doing. And I'm like, wow. And then I'm listening to the individual songs and I'm saying, yeah, I have to bring this to people. People need to have that experience of that the same way that I need certain songs at certain times. Right? Think of your favorite song by your favorite artist and then just imagine that they went a different route in life and you didn't have that. That's some powerful shit, isn't it? Like, what if your favorite artist never wrote that song? What if they never performed it, never recorded it? What if they just did Heating and Air their whole life instead?
Right? Yeah.
So
So I actually have not an anecdote, but not a specific story, but about what you're saying, that favorite song, right? So for me, I'm not a musician, but I am a music lover. I know when a song is just perfect, and I know in my body if it feels harmonious, whatever. But there have been moments when you don't even know the pain that you have within yourself because you cannot express, you don't have the talent or the gift or the musical inclination to express yourself, to express your emotion, your pain, or whatever it is. And when you find a musician, an artist who can say the things that you can't articulate, you can't instrumentally, put out, it is such a relief. It is like, oh, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for that relief of my pain that's just like held in, and that's why I think there's so much musician worship, because not all of us can like get it out, and we
yeah,
need you. We need you to help us find the channel, the like
yeah.
just how to hear it, and it's a relief. You provide relief to those of us who don't have the talent. So
My
thank you, Heating and Air in Augusta, Georgia, for
my
not
my
being like a winter thing.
my favorite artist, who's the only hip hop artist or rapper that I will ever like publicly acknowledge as an influence. There's others, but his name is Decca, and he has a new album out called Smoking Gun, and I bought the vinyl for it last night. Um, why? I don't have a record player, but I'm gonna collect them and never open them. And somewhere down the line, somebody's gonna offer me a obscene amount of money for it. I'm gonna say, yeah, I got a copy, but you can't have it. but but there's a line in the first song that says, this music's like cooling for the overheated brain.
Like what?
This music is like cooling for the overheated brain.
Yes,
Now
yes.
there's more lyrics and
Mm.
it's really beautiful how he puts it all together, but you know, what you just said, and he's saying, and it's just, I just, yeah, and I met this guy. I got to meet this guy in person. I went to a show in Asheville, North Carolina, last August, and it was a very small venue, and he was standing over there in the corner, and uh, Emily was there, along with her boyfriend at the time, and I brought the woman that I was seeing, but anyways, it got my attention. They're like, "Hey, Ethan, come over here." I didn't see him standing there, but everybody's just hanging out before the show. There's like 10 people there total. And I walk around the corner and it's him. And I was like, "Oh, it's the man himself." And he says, "Yeah," and we shake hands, and I can tell he's looking at me, and I could tell that like he sees me on a deeper level. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And I was gonna leave him alone. I didn't want to be all starstruck or whatever. But he asked, I introduced myself and I say Hawkeye, and I think Emily says, "Yeah, this is Hawkeye the rapper." I was like, "Yeah, nice to meet you." I go to walk off, and he says, "Wait, we talked before." Because in 2017, when I discovered his music, I sent him a message on Facebook and said, is this really Decca? And he's like, "Yeah, it's really me." And we had a brief conversation at one time, but here meeting him in person, I told you I could see him seeing me on a deeper level. And he's like, "Yeah, you're that guy. I know you. I know that you know me too." And just in that moment, there was so much communicated without words between me and him. And I want to go and do this music stuff, not just for all of the reasons that we just said, but also so that I can interact with and collaborate with people like him and have him introduce me to other musicians as well, and vice versa, and this and that. And I want to have that creative experience, because a lot of the reasons for, I realize with the podcast and stuff, a big reason for me doing the podcast isn't just to have conversations that I think people would benefit from hearing. It's so that I can have the conversation with people that I'm interested in having a conversation with, that, you don't have access to people that maybe you want to sit down and talk with all the time. But if you start a podcast, you do, because you're like, "Yeah, I'll come on your podcast." And I'm excited. These are the things I'm excited to move into with life this year. And a lot of that is just, it's gone from a place of like, I'm not saying, "Oh, I hope this stuff works out." It's like, I'm now working on achieving my goals instead of chasing my dreams. I'm gonna make
Yeah.
them a reality because I can trust myself to do it, because I led myself to this point. And I don't really even have to have faith that it's going to work out. I know that it's going to work out because everything around me is pointing me in the same direction. Everything's encouraging me. I have a legitimate practical plan that I get to fill in the details as I go. And even though I'm ready to get started and for September to be here, I'm very, very glad that I'm right here now and that this month is moving so very slow for me. But you get what I'm saying? Um, and so even this chat is it's a blessing.
Yeah. So something you said about it's not being faith, right? But remind me what you said about that. You said,
Essentially, it's not like I have to have faith in something that I'm hoping for, but like I'm secretly got a lot of doubts. A lot of the doubts are no longer there, and they're only there if I kind of focus on them. But now, if I stay focused on what I know to be true about myself and where life is heading, it's kind of like I'm caught in the flow of this river,
right.
and I'm
Okay.
surrendering to it, and I know that the river is heading from point A to point B. I don't have to wonder, I hope I make it down there. No, I will, as long as I don't fight the current. And I look back at my life and I see like I say I want to get there, but I'm swimming upstream trying to get downriver. It
Right.
doesn't work
You
that
have
way.
like conflicting
I'm getting out of my
directions,
I'm getting
right?
out of my way. And in that I can have faith that I will get to where I'm going without having to cling on to this faith and hope it gets
Right.
there, you know.
So when you were saying that about faith, it brought to mind something like, it's not that it's not faith. It's just that
Mhm.
it's like faith was the foundation,
Mhm.
right? Trusting yourself, trusting God, trusting others, right? And then it becomes like expectation. And then you're like, I know everything's going to be okay because I have faith, right? And then there's like another one. Now I'm surrendering to whatever comes into me because I can expect good things,
Yeah.
right? And then it just like builds and it builds and it builds. And you get into that like current that you're just like, wee, and you don't even like,
You know,
there's
and
no,
we started this conversation, and you expressed that about yourself, and that's why I said, "Well, tell me about it." You know, because I'm right where you're at, and this thing that I see with my hawk's eye view. Again, the name Hawkeye it had nothing to do with comic book character. It has to do with like the literal eye of a hawk. I see that what I'm experiencing that you said you're experiencing, a lot of other people are experiencing it too, right now at this point in time. And then I can just look up at the stars, the big clock in the sky with the astrology, and see where we're at there and say, oh yeah, because now is the time. It is the clock has struck 12. The new day has begun, and then it takes it out of this realm, all this new age speak, and now we're just speaking about the new age that
mm,
we get to be a part of. Not only are we tasked with bringing it about, in my opinion, a lot of our souls incarnated specifically to do just that. Like the earth said, we're going to need you all to show up here at this time, and we're like, yeah, and we're going to need each other to get through it, to walk each other home. Because if I got a lot of sisters, and I'm very grateful for that, I also got a bunch of younger brothers. They need me to show up too, because I don't say that I have an old soul. That's not old enough. I've got a lot of lineage back there, a lot of very ancient stuff to bring to the table and wisdom. And the world doesn't need for me to show up as a scared, timid boy in a man's body. It needs me to show up and bring all of that has been forgotten and lost. There's a song that I've got. It's called "The Story of Our Former Glory." Well, when I wrote that story of our former glory and made it into a song, that's what I need to bring to the forefront of my life that I lead. So that when I walk into a room, or I come onto the stage, or I enter into the different states as I'm traveling around, I'm bringing that energy forward, putting it in front of people, forcing them to interact with it, because it's what's needed. It's what begins to dehypnotize us all. And I talk about it a lot in my music. I say, uh, linguistical mystical script that's cryptic and mythic. Whenever shit like this is written, all of heaven's enlisted in assisting with specific information like, listen, did you know if you're a patient of mine, then your new prescription is wordplay competitions with competent, comprehensive, fully formed, interesting, something new sentences. Uh, And I go on to say all this wicked verbiage that you've heard this bird come deliver isn't just silly, worded, nonsensical lyric filler. I can say what I mean however I want. The language reconstructs itself around the things that I've thought. And whenever I endeavor to say clever shit, watch how fluidly this druid speech then proceeds to concoct easily understandable concepts that flow, fully formed concepts that flow, something, 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 something. I forget the words, but you get my point.
yeah.
And so if I'm able to just do all of that and dehypnotize people, and it's kind of like I'm speaking in prose, but it happens to rhyme. Not everybody can do that, like you were saying. But maybe if I do it first, it'll unlock other people's abilities to do it. I had this dream years back, 2017. In this dream, there was this ball of problems. It was a big fucking problem. The ball represented the world that we're in. And I was tasked with fixing it. It was like, here you go, Womack, fix this. We can't fix it. It's yours. And it's funny because my father, that's where the name Womack come, my stepfather, my father, he was in the military and he worked on communications equipment. He was in the army. And he was very skilled at what he did. And whenever they would run into a problem that they didn't know what to do, they'd say, just give it to Womack. He'll take care of it for you. And he would, because that's who he was. And so in this dream, here you go, this is yours. Fix it. And so I took one little portion of the ball or of problems. I took one part out and I fixed it. And then I put it back in and I watched it fix the rest of everything.
Mm.
And I didn't, it was this vivid dream. And I woke up from it and I was like, what does that mean? And that's what it means. It means, go ahead.
I know what it means.
What does it mean?
Which is the tagline of my transformational self-love, which is change yourself, change the world. Oh my God. In the stream. Whee!
You know, I opened that Bible while I was sitting in there. Wyatt brought the Bible into the restaurant with me. I was talking with someone. I didn't even know why I had it with me and I took it with me. I had a reason. Again, some part of me kept it secret from me. And I like, oh, there's a bookmark in here, and it was your bookmark, and you had just messaged me before I found it. And I was like, wow. I took a picture of it and sent it to the other Gina. That's so interesting. Like, what are the chances? But on the back of the card, it says developing your authentic self to richly experience your humanity. I think that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. But I love
forming that alchemy.
And you just like you pull yourself out of it and you fix that, and then you put it back in, and then it just like fixes the rest of it.
Yeah. And then the problem of the big problem doesn't seem so impossible to fix, you know. Yeah. And that's what I'm gonna do in the fall. And it's not even summer yet, and it's like I'm already there, and I've got all this time to plan it out and get all of the fine detail together and talk on the phone or on the Zoom or whatever with all of the people I know around. And maybe those chats that I have with them inspires them to say, oh wow, I can do this and I can be a part of this, and they get inspired and encouraged to step into their authentic self as well. And then again, that's one part that I fixed, inserting into the mix that's causing other parts to get fixed. And then, you know, so it's not really, it's this whole situation that we find ourselves in here in this world. It's not nearly as hopeless as the television wants us to believe.
Oh,
that's what nature says to me every day when the sun rises. It says that, and you hear the birds chirping, and then the sun comes out, and you can breathe because the rain falls and keeps the tree, and it's just magic.
And that's the truth. Yeah. You feel the truth. We're witnessing the truth. I'm not going to believe what is being like, they're trying to convince me of that. I see the truth. I see it daily. Just like you're saying, nature is comforting me in its cycles. I don't need, no.
It's just like Jesus said in the, I forget exactly what part of it, I think it's Matthew or something, where he says all of this and that, blah, blah, blah. But he says the kingdom of heaven is among you, it's within you, it's all around you. You just can't see it. You go back and you read that part, and he's talking about, don't worry about tomorrow. Look at these birds. They're not worried about how they're going to feed their kids. And look at those flowers. They're gonna wither and die tomorrow, but they're more beautiful than all this shit that y'all built. And they always will be. But everything's good. Just chill out. Says this man of God back then in this book that we read now, and we still are reading. Like, what does he mean here? But every day, it says again, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Easter, right? Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the it says somewhere in there, it says a bunch of stuff like about nature and everything, but at some point Jesus is talking and somebody said something about something, and Jesus said, you know, if these people weren't uh singing these praises, the rocks themselves would start singing. And
Mm,
I've witnessed that. When I had mine again in 2017, I was walking outside to see the sunrise. I was doing my meditative stuff, and as I'm walking out into my front yard, I lift my foot, and before at some point I lift my foot to take another step forward, and before my foot hits the ground, suddenly I'm back. I'm fully me. The Hawkeye soul aspect of myself steps all the way into the forefront. This idea of Ethan fades into a realm of non-existence. Not like, oh, where did Ethan go? It's like, oh, Ethan was never even a thing. It was just a concept there. And now I say to myself, wow, it took me this long just to breathe a breath with my own lungs, to see with my own eyes. And as I'm having this experience of this remembrance of myself, of who I truly am, that has indeed reincarnated, um, I look around and the sun's up at this point. There's bees flying around. I've got my sunflowers planted there. And every blade of grass, every living thing around me, I can hear them all celebrating. Celebrating what? Celebrating me. Like, Hawkeye's back. It's all good now. God, it was a
mm,
celebrate. I could see it in every it's like I could sense the life force of every single blade of grass, all of it, everything all around me. And it was celebrating me becoming aware and conscious of me, like there's a human here now, a real one. And I've had this experience in other ways. And with trees, there was this tree in the backyard of the next place after I got arrested and all this and that and got out. And I wind up at this house and I named it Two Trees because it's this oak tree that grew into two. And I'm sitting there stressed out and I'm just looking at it. And I realize, like, wow, you're the last tree before they cut all these down on the edge of the yard. You're here, you're still here when they planted this house and cut down all your friends. But as a seed, nature had the wisdom, and you as a seed and were like, oh, they cut down too many trees. I need to be a tree and do my job, so I'll grow into two trees. And I was like, wow. And the tree's like, oh wow, you noticed that that's what I didn't think any of you humans were gonna notice what me and I look around and there's all these other trees right at the edge of the forest there that are multiple trees. Not just one. They're like, we got to do our tree job. They cut down too many, but it's fine. We'll just multiply ourselves. Uh, and I could sense these trees being like so very grateful and appreciative for me, one of these walking trees, finally taking notice and kind of getting the message. And then the next day there was a storm, and this one tree with five trees fell over, and I walk out and I was like, oh, the poor tree. It's like, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I just wanted you to know that I heard you. And I wanted to say, yeah, that's really what we're doing here as trees. And then springtime came and it's still very much alive and it's laying outside this and that, but it's like we wanted to make sure to communicate back with you in a way that you can't deny that we appreciate being heard too.
mm.
And so yeah, I'm gonna go do all of this stuff this year and hopefully gather all these men together and sit around the fire with them, so to speak, and have these types of conversations, which I can have with my sisters. I can have that. Y'all are good. I don't know what these boys are doing over here, but but gather them around and get them to have those experiences with nature too. And
Well, I encourage you to literally have bonfires
yeah, I intend
because
to.
fire is so primal. It's so releasing. I don't know if I've ever talked about Ronnie the donkey with you.
Mm-mm.
So Ronnie the donkey lost his son in a barbed wire tangle, right? He couldn't help him and he died. And he was in like depression. And there was a lady who had an animal sanctuary, and she has all kinds of animals, not just donkeys, all kinds of animals. And when he came to her sanctuary, he was very to himself. He would just kind of stay in the corners of the pastures and just not really interact. And for a while he was like that. And the woman who owns the sanctuary, she had a daughter who had passed away. And every year she would have a fire right outside the barn and remember her daughter and just kind of cleanse her heart and her memories. And she has this fire outside the barn, and Ronnie comes trotting out of the barn, and he just stands there with her. And they're mourning, they're remembering, and they're releasing. And they stayed there all night until that big bonfire went out. And that next day, Ronnie was a different donkey. He became like the welcoming committee to all the new animals that would come in. And so that night, it was really chilly, even though they were by the fire. And the owner had a scarf and she put it around him, right? And I don't know very many donkeys, but apparently donkeys don't like things on them. And he let it stay on him, right? And so Ronnie wears a scarf, and now he wears like a hat and everything, like a hand knit hat. And he's the welcoming committee to all the new, sanctuary residents. And he makes sure that they feel comfortable when they come in. But he needed that fire. He needed that pause, and that reverence for his grief, and for maybe even, like you're saying, the death of the boy, and the birth of the man of the group that you want to create.
I like the way that you put that.
They needed each other, they had the same pain. And how interesting they pulled each other to each other, which brings me to something else I want to talk about. I know we're going to wrap up pretty soon, and I think that this is going to be a nice wrap up, and I can't wait to hear how it lands for you. So I see the world as a symphony, right? And I see all of us, not just humans, the trees, the rocks, the bees, as notes. We all are these little like musical notes, right? And as we float around this world and we interact, sometimes we get close to notes that are like, they're discord, right? And then we're just kind of like, we go away from that. And then we find another note, and then we happen to have harmony. I'm like, oh, yeah, I like you. This feels good. This feels good. And we can be together. And maybe that's for a really long time. Maybe that's just for a song, a verse even, and then, we find the places that our notes resonate and harmonize. But you have to tune your note. You have to find your note. You have to keep your note solid. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we can change over a lifetime and we stretch our range or something, but there's this lady that I listen to named Toni Jones, and she has a song, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it says universe. Universe means one verse. This is one song, and we're all part of it. And you got to find, your note family, your musical line. And I feel like for me, it's getting easier and easier to notice harmony and discord because of my own attunement.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need to have that solid identity
Yeah.
to know where you harmonize.
Wow, that's a great way to put the whole of it all. This whole time, we talked about this and that music, and I've wanted to say what you just said, and basically that it's a life is a song. Um,
Mm.
and I like the fact that you're putting it in terms of saying that this is all a symphony, you know. And interestingly enough, as a musician, I play stringed instruments. And to tune, that's one of the first things my father taught me was how to tune the guitar. To tune the guitar, you have to have a bass line to tune it to. That means you have to have a note that's a pure note.
Right.
And then you find where the note's at on the fretboard and you pluck the next string for, let's say, the A uh, note. You play that on one string and then you pluck the other string that's supposed to be tuned to A. And as you're tuning it, you can hear the oscillations. You can hear the resonance. And it kind of is like this. And you can hear it and it gets faster and faster until it stabilizes. And then if you go too far, you can hear it go out again. And that harmony, that resonance, or the discordance, that's something that my ears are. Uh, I've been taught to be able to hear that, and that's how people pick up an instrument and just play along with the music they hear on the radio. Because as long as their instrument's in tune, they can find it. They can fit in. They can synchronize.
Oh, you pulled it together. Look at that. I knew you were going to pull it together.
Hmm. This was great. Let's do this again sometime. Um, Along with all of the plans for my music, this and that, it's all the backdrop of it all is Omniversal Media. Um, and thank you again for the business plan. As we move forward, I have larger and larger plans to incorporate all of that and to find various artists like me out there, maybe off adrift with some extraordinary talents, and to bring them in and say, here's a stage, here's a platform, do this, and then all together we create a level of abundance that has literally the power, like what Teal says in
Yeah.
her vision plan. If, if they want to play the money game, okay, we'll play it better, and there won't be any competition because we'll just have the ability to be that umbrella to protect our tribe,
Yeah.
to make the world a safer place.
Walking each other home safely.
Like Ronnie the donkey.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much. I will be in touch, but I'm gonna let you go. Was there anything else that you wanted to share? I'm feeling like I'm definitely gonna post this as an episode, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
I'm probably gonna post it before we post the one that we already did.
I feel like
But
this one is
yeah,
poetry. This feels like poetry to me.
yeah. So anybody that's listening to this, how would they go about finding out how to connect with you? Is that something you'd want to share? Website?
Oh, yeah, they can find me at alchemy.love. ALCHEME.love.
All right, and I'll be sure to put that in the description so people can physically see it. Gina, thank you so much.
Thank you. I love you, brother.
I love you too. Have a nice day.
You too, honey. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.